Hey everyone, it's Shao Joker here, and welcome to a new series of reviews I'm doing. This is just gonna be what's happening to the review series. I feel my old reviews were kinda too generalized-y, so I think from here on out, I'm gonna try and very much have more personalized reviews, not just generalizing my points and all that. Anyway, let's start off this new review series with one of my favorite platformers in the Wii U era, Yoshi's Woolly World. This is a game I surprisingly don't see many people talk about, which is a real damn shame in my opinion, because I think it's really freaking good. But we'll get into that over the review. Anyway, let's get this video started. Starting off with the story of the game. Now, as you would expect from a Mario platformer title, the story isn't too great, but the basics of it is one peaceful day on Crafty Island, which the Yoshis lived on. Kamek decided to steal the Yoshi's friends through turning them into bundles of wool. And to be honest, that's all there is to it. It's not really a bad narrative. I mean, it's not entirely complex or that interesting at all, but go ahead. Tell me, who in the world would want to play a Yoshi game for the deep and interesting story? No one. Not a single soul. So for that reason, I don't feel saying, the story's bare bones and not complex isn't really a fair criticism, since it's a Mario platformer. Yes, I know Yoshi is a spin-off, but the point still stands. Mario platformer. With the exception of the RPGs, you're not playing a Mario platformer for story. Anyway, let's get on to the presentation of Yoshi's Woolly World, or just general looks and graphics, because this game is beautiful, man. If you guys, well, anyone, not specifically you guys, anyone who just really liked Kirby's Epic Yarn, this is a spiritual successor to Kirby's Epic Yarn. And it looks just as, if not more beautiful than Epic Yarn. Like, seriously, everything's beautiful. Everything's made out of yarn. I guess wool in this case. It's so beautiful. It's so handcrafted. And it's so good. You guys are seeing some gameplay right now, and for Wii U standards, which honestly aren't that bad, but Nintendo's always the inferior console when it comes to graphics, so gotta defend Wii U standards. This looks fantastic. It's just downright mesmerizingly beautiful. I know I'm pretty much saying the same thing over and over and over, but there isn't much more to say. Though, this actually has a bit of a version difference, and something that I like more about the 3DS version of Woolly World. If you're playing that version, you get these little Poochie shorts, which involve Poochie and Yoshi. And they're adorable and extremely well made as well. I would not fault someone just for playing the 3DS version, simply for those shorts, because oh my god, they're so adorable and I love them. I mean, yeah, they're they're pretty cool. Well, now let's go on to the music. Music is pretty good. It's I don't know what to say the soundtrack as a whole because it had a lot of standout tracks. But while I was playing, but trying to think of some, I can't think of too many that I was a huge fan of off the top of my head. I did really like the main theme and the first level theme. It is still generally a, a pretty damn good soundtrack, but not the most memorable, in all honesty. I love the songs I can remember, but I can't really remember all of them, so yeah. Just gonna glaze past this point, really. Now, on to the defining thing of the game, which is the gameplay. If you guys have been, well, not you guys, once again, if Yoshi fans have been, had a need for a good Yoshi game since we've been getting, I'll be nice and say, not as good versions of the original Yoshi's Island. Well, this is got you covered. It's pretty much Yoshi's Island. But, honestly, arguably better than the Yoshi's Island. Level design is... oh, it's way better. Poochie works so good. But yeah, let me explain the main gimmicks of the game before I go into stuff like level design and gimmicks and stuff. So now if you have your typical platformer, you run, you jump, you flutter jump in this case, considering Yoshi. But you also make eggs, or yarn balls in this case, which you can either get by eating enemies and swallowing them, or throwing, or not throwing, through egg boxes, I guess, where you can just jump them like they're a question mark block in a Mario game, and there you go, you got yourself some eggs. There's also a bit of a power-up gimmick you can get. You can get power badges. Usually you get these for beating either a fortress or just castle level, I guess. Though sometimes you get them just after regular old levels. And yeah, that's... and they can definitely enhance the gameplay, but honestly, one small issue I have with them is I only found like a handful of them useful. I typically use stuff like the Poochie bag, the Make Yarn Balls Bigger bag, and honestly, I think those were the only real two that I constantly used. Yeah, those are the only two that I constantly used. If I used any other ones, then it was more so because of a specific level gimmick, and not because I found it useful throughout the playthrough. I mean, sure, there are uses I can think of for them, but once again, they're kinda all depends on the level and stuff like that. But now let's go to talk about the level design, because Holy crap, these are some of the, I want to say, most well-designed levels I've seen in a platformer in recent years. Which is kind of weird considering, for me to say, considering this game came out, like, what, 4 or 5 years ago now? It's insane how well these levels are designed. They, even when specific levels have gimmicks, they all complement the actual main gameplay of the game fairly well, so there's not really an issue there. But now let's talk about the characters. And since this isn't really a story-based game, it's kinda hard to say some positive things about some of the characters, since you only have a couple of them, really. And they aren't all that fleshed out, since once again, this is a game you play to have fun, not one you play to have a interesting story told to you. But anyway, characters we get are obviously the main character, Yoshi, who he's just like he's always been, lovable dinosaur pal. Also have Poochie, who I love in this game, mainly because of the Poochie shorts in the 3DS version. But he does play well in the levels too, so that might have something to do with why I love him. And then we have Kamek, who he's probably the most fun character, simply because of how constantly you see him, even though he's not really the main antagonist, since you don't really properly fight him or anything. He's just a joy whenever he's on screen. Lastly, Baby Bowser is our villain, though you don't get much of him, considering you really only see him right before you fight him. He's Baby Bowser. I don't know what else I can really say on him. But now here we go. Every game has its flaws, and I have to point them out. So as much as I've loved praising up Yoshi's Woolly World, I do still have some problems with it I found while playing. Starting off, once again, even though I mentioned this in the gameplay segment, honestly, the power badges, like I said, I only use 2 or 3 of them consistently. Otherwise, unless a specific helped out specifically with a certain level, I didn't bother with them. It's either make all yarn balls big, bring Poochie along, and maybe I brought along the watermelon every now and then. But honestly, when I was playing this game, I just didn't feel much of a need for most of them. Either that or ones that I would like to use, they were a bit too expensive for me. And then we have the bosses, which I haven't brought up yet, and while I do like the fights, it's more so a conceptual problem with the bosses. Yeah, the bosses, I very much have a conceptual problem with a lot of them. They do follow a basic theme of I'm a giant version of an enemy, which is just a boss idea I don't like very much. And I do like some of the fights. I really enjoy the fight with Miss Cluck and Bunsen, I believe his name is. I think those are fun fights. But since they're just bigger versions of enemies you've seen throughout the stage, it kind of just loses the whole, this is a boss that's bigger than anything you've ever seen sort of feel that I like with bosses. Just boils down to, here's a big version of an enemy that you've seen pretty much only in this stage. Have fun. I really wish it wasn't like that. Because then I could say these bosses, both from an actual gameplay perspective and conceptual level, are great. But fortunately, I can't say that about these bosses. But anyway, on to the next problem. It's actually with, funny enough, the mini bosses. Yeah, they do still share the same problem of, oh, they're just bigger versions of already existing enemies. The bigger problem I have with them is that for every other world, they reuse it. Big Montgomery is used in worlds 1, 3, and 5, while Not Winnie the Koopa is used in worlds 2, 4, and 6. And while yes, the fights are technically changed up a bit for each time, Sure, there is a favorite version of each fight that I have, and that's the second time since, okay, they reused the boss like once or twice, that's fine. By the third time I was like, there's so many enemies that you could have made mini bosses. Even if you were still gonna do the, I'm gonna make this enemy just big, that's your boss sort of feel. And unfortunately, it just loses some points with me there. But those are the only real problems I have with the game. It's a fantastic platformer otherwise. And throughout playing it, I didn't have too many problems other than that. And those are only issues you really realize, with the exception of the mini-boss complaints. That's only something I realized after playing the game and reflecting on everything, so I made sure I could get a critical opinion for this review. In short, that was Yoshi's Woolly World. I'm not going to give it a score, since, well, I'm not a review site, and my reviews are very much opinionated. These are personal problems I have with the game. And yeah, that was Yoshi's Woolly World. If you guys would like me to make more reviews like this, I am more than open to that. But anyway, until then, this has been Shadow Joker. Until, well, whenever we see each other next, we'll see you guys next time.